The shouting started before anyone saw Eshu. On that hot afternoon, the dusty road stretched between the farmlands and the forest empty, except for two young men walking side by side. They were friends since boyhood, always seen together. They hunted together, shared meals, even built their huts next to each other. Everyone in the village knew them as brothers in spirit, if not in blood. But that day, the bond between them cracked. It began simply, as all great quarrels do. They had been laughing, joking about the coming harvest, when a tall figure appeared ahead of them. The figure wore a wide-brimmed hat, tilted low. From a distance, the man looked ordinary, like any traveler passing through, but as he drew closer, one of the friends frowned. "Look at that man's hat," he said. "It's as black as the night." His companion stopped walking, staring at the same hat. He blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" "It's red, bright red, like fire." The first man laughed. "You must be blind. It's black, I tell you." The second man crossed his arms. "No, you're blind. Anyone with eyes can see it's red." Their laughter vanished, replaced by sharp voices. Each was certain of what he saw. Neither noticed that the stranger's mouth curled into a sly smile as he walked between them, silent. He did not look left or right, only kept his steady pace down the road. The two friends turned to watch him pass. "See? From this side, it's red," one shouted. "From here, it's black," the other barked. Their voices rose. The man with the strange hat kept walking, his shoulders shaking with quiet amusement. Soon, he disappeared beyond the bend in the path, leaving only dust in the air, but by then the quarrel had already taken root. The friends stood facing each other, anger flashing in their eyes. "You're lying to make me look foolish. And you're lying to trick me. Why won't you admit the truth?" They shoved each other. A passing woman carrying water stopped and stared. "What's wrong with you two?" she asked. They pointed back toward the road. "That man's hat. It was red," one said. "No, black," the other snapped. The woman shook her head. "I saw nothing. Only a man walking." She hurried on, not wanting to be caught in the storm brewing between them. But the quarrel spread like fire in dry grass. By the time they reached the village, both friends were yelling, each gathering supporters. Children ran around shouting, "Red, black," as though it were a game. Elders frowned, muttering that something was not right. The two friends would not back down. They insulted each other, voices breaking with rage. "You've always been jealous of me. You've always been stubborn and foolish." Soon, the crowd gathered to watch them wrestle in the dust. Old men tried to separate them, but their pride burned hotter than reason. Blood was drawn, and the village square, once filled with laughter, rang with anger. Hidden at the edge of the crowd, leaning against a tree, the stranger with the hat chuckled to himself. His eyes glowed faintly, and anyone who looked too closely at him would feel their stomach twist, as if the world itself were laughing. He had no name to the villagers, but the elders whispered in low voices, for they recognized him, Eshu, the trickster, the messenger, the one who stirs chaos to reveal hidden truths. And Eshu was pleased. The fight between the two friends did not cool as the sun went down. By nightfall, the whole village was talking about it. Some said the hat was truly black. Others swore it was red. People who had not even seen the stranger began choosing sides, repeating words they had only heard secondhand. The village chief, an old man named Adeyemi, tried to restore peace. He gathered the people in the meeting square beneath the great baobab tree. The branches spread wide like arms holding the sky, and beneath its shade, matters of importance were always settled. Adeyemi raised his staff, carved with the images of gods and ancestors. "My children," he said, "why do we quarrel over a traveler's hat? What does it matter if it was red or black?" But the people would not listen. Each side shouted louder than the other. "You are blind if you think it was red, and you are fool if you say it was black." The old chief sighed, feeling the weight of the years on his shoulders. He had seen disputes over land, over cattle, even over marriage promises. But never had he seen a quarrel that grew from nothing and yet burned so fiercely. Finally, he turned to the two young men who had started it all. Their faces were bruised, their clothes torn from fighting, yet neither would bow his head. "Tell me," Adeyemi said, "why do you both cling to your own truth? Can you not see that one of you must be mistaken?" "I'm not mistaken," one spat. "Nor I," the other growled. The crowd roared again, each side cheering for the one they supported. It was no longer about the hat. It was about pride, about being right, about refusing to bend. Hidden in the shadows, Eshu watched, his grin wide. He leaned on his tall staff, the curved wood glinting in the firelight. His hat, red on one side and black on the other, shifted like flame and smoke, never still. No one saw him, though he stood among them. That was Eshu's gift, to be both there and not there, to be seen and unseen, to laugh in the middle of chaos while mortals tore at each other. By morning, the quarrel had split the village. One half painted their doors with black ash, declaring, "We stand with truth." The other half smeared their walls with red clay, shouting, "We see clearly." The once united village was now divided by color. Friends no longer shared meals. Families would not greet each other in the morning. Even children refused to play together, arguing about which side was correct. The two friends who had walked together so many times now walked apart, each surrounded by his supporters. They spoke no words of peace, only curses. And still, Eshu walked the paths, smiling. When he passed, chickens refused to lay eggs. Cows kicked over their pails of milk. Drums split in the middle of festivals, their skins snapping like thunder. Every sign reminded the villagers that something greater than a hat was at work. But blinded by their own anger, they did not see it. That night, Adeyemi called the elders together in secret. They sat in a circle, their voices hushed, though no outsiders could hear. "This is no ordinary quarrel," one elder whispered. "Indeed," another muttered, "it is the hand of Eshu." At the sound of that name, the fire seemed to flicker. Eshu, the trickster, the one who opened and closed roads, the one who carried prayers to the Orishas, but only if he wished. Without him, no offering, no word, no plea reached the gods. To anger Eshu was to bring ruin. To ignore him was worse. "But why does he torment us?" asked one elder. "What have we done to call his laughter upon us?" Adeyemi struck the ground with his staff. "It does not matter why. What matters is what will come if we do not act. Already our people are divided. Already anger has stolen our peace. If Eshu continues, worse will follow." The elders nodded. They had seen enough of Eshu's mischief in their lifetimes to know the danger. But what could they do? One does not command Eshu. One does not bribe him, nor trick him. One must endure him. Yet still they wondered. Why had he chosen this path, these men, this hat? In the darkness, as the village slept uneasily, Eshu laughed beneath the baobab tree. His voice was low, like a drum beaten far away. The sound called into the dreams of the villagers, leaving them restless, twisting in their sleep. The trickster was only beginning. The next morning, the village woke to a quiet that felt heavier than usual. No roosters crowed, no children laughed. The market stalls were empty, save for a few frightened elders who dared to rise early. Everyone knew, even if no one would speak it aloud, that the quarrel had changed something essential. The two friends, now leaders of opposing factions, sat across from each other under the shadow of the baobab tree. Their eyes burned with stubbornness. Pride had become a wall neither could cross. "You will admit the hat was red," one said. His voice was soft now, but each word carried steel. "And you will admit it was black," the other replied, equally calm, equally firm. The air between them shimmered, heavy, with unspoken threats. Birds flew away from the branches, cawing loudly, as if even they feared the tension. From the edge of the village, Eshu appeared again. This time, no one noticed him until the shadows moved strangely. He wore the same hat, red and black, glowing faintly in the morning sun. A soft wind blew, carrying with it a strange scent, sweet, metallic, like iron and honey together. The villagers shifted uneasily, sensing something beyond their understanding. Eshu spoke at last, his voice calm, but carrying the weight of the impossible. You quarrel over what you see. Yet the world is more than your eyes can take in. You fight for truth, and yet you do not see it. The two friends turned toward the voice, searching for its source, their fists relaxed, but only slightly. "I see him," one whispered. "I do not," the other replied. Eshu chuckled, a laugh that was like water spilling over rocks, sudden and cold. "Exactly," he said, "exactly why you fight. One sees what is red, the other what is black, and still, neither sees all." The villagers gasped. Some fell to their knees. Others clutched their heads as if trying to block out the impossible knowledge. "Why are you here?" one of the friends shouted. "Why do you confuse us?" Eshu's eyes glowed faintly. "I do not confuse, I reveal. And you, my young friends, are learning the first lesson. Truth is not one thing. It is many things. You cannot hold it with your hands, only with your understanding." By midday, the quarrel had escalated beyond the two friends. Villagers argued over everything: the color of cloth, the placement of doors, even the taste of food became signs of loyalty to red or black. Families who had shared meals for decades now sat apart in silence. Trade slowed, laughter disappeared, fear took root. The elders tried to restore peace, speaking from their porches in the sun. "It is only a hat," one said, "only a man's color." But their words fell on deaf ears. Pride and stubbornness were stronger than reason. Eshu wandered through the village like a shadow, appearing here, disappearing there. He whispered to some, touched others lightly on the shoulder. Strange visions flickered in their minds. A tree turned upside down, a goat walking backward, a river flowing into the sky. People cried out. Some ran thinking the village cursed. Others stayed, fascinated and terrified. The world had grown uncertain in a way no one had imagined. By evening, the village square had become a place of confrontation. Red and black marks painted the ground. People shouted at each other, shouting past reason, past memory, past care. Yet Eshu watched, smiling. He had stored the first wave of chaos, and it was beautiful in its perfection. And still, the two friends had not reconciled. "They will never see the truth," one elder said quietly to no one in particular. "Perhaps they must see more," Adeyemi replied, eyes fixed on the fading sun. "Perhaps Eshu has yet more to show them." And he was right, for Eshu's lesson was only beginning. Night fell heavy over the village. The air was thick with the scent of smoke from small fires lit in homes where families sat divided. Red and black marks painted walls and floors, a silent declaration of allegiance. The two friends, now leaders of their respective sides, did not sleep. Each paced outside their hut, staring into the darkness. Shadows shifted strangely, twisting as though alive. Whispers floated in the air, soft voices that seemed to come from nowhere, carrying fragments of conversations that had never happened. "They are trying to trick us," one friend muttered to himself. "They want us to look foolish." But he did not see that the trick was not coming from another human. It was Eshu. The trickster moved unseen, his red and black hat peeking out from the darkness. He whispered to the wind, to the leaves, to the dust on the ground. Every small movement, every strange sound carried the weight of confusion. In one home, a mother scolded her children for touching clay marks on the floor, while her neighbor laughed and painted her own floor red. Arguments erupted over small things: spilled water, a broken basket, a misplaced tool. The quarrel over the hat had become a quarrel over everything. The two friends, hearing the chaos in the village, finally met in secret under the baobab tree. They spoke not with anger, but with a heavy silence. Pride still held them apart, but the fear of losing everything drew their attention. "I never thought it would get this far," said the first friend, voice trembling. "Nor I," the second replied. "We have divided the village, and for what? A hat?" Eshu appeared in the shadows, silent at first, letting them see nothing but the faint shimmer of his hat. Then he spoke, slow and deliberate. "You have seen only one side," he said, "and that is why you fight. One sees red, the other black. You accuse each other of lies, and yet neither sees the whole. You have begun to understand. The friends glanced at each other. Neither knew whether to be angry or grateful. "Why do you do this?" one asked. "Why not leave us in peace?" Eshu laughed, soft and low, a sound that trembled through the trees. "I am not here to harm. I am here to reveal. The world is never as it seems. Pride blinds, anger clouds. Only when you look at both sides can you find the truth." Meanwhile, across the village, the elders convened once more. They realized that the quarrel had gone beyond a simple dispute. The division threatened the safety of their people. Even the crops in the field seemed to respond to the tension, growing strangely. Some withered, some bursting with fruit overnight. "This is no ordinary quarrel," said Adeyemi. "It is Eshu's work. He tests us, teaches us, but we must endure wisely." The elders sent messengers to gather the two friends, hoping to reconcile them before the division became permanent. But the friends, stubborn and proud, refused. Each believed the other would never yield. That night, strange things began to occur. Doors creaked open on their own. Lamps flickered without wind. Shadows twisted in impossible ways across walls. Villagers whispered about seeing figures that moved too quickly to be human. Children woke screaming, claiming they had seen a man with a red and black hat smiling at them. Eshu was everywhere and nowhere, his laughter carried by the wind. The village, once united and peaceful, was caught in the web of his trickery. And yet amid the chaos, seeds of understanding had been planted. The two friends, forced to witness the growing unrest, began to sense a larger truth. Their pride was not the only thing at stake. The harmony of their village depended on learning what Eshu intended. The night deepened. Stars shone overhead, cold and distant. But in the heart of the village, a storm of anger, confusion, and fear raged. Only Eshu remained calm, his hat shifting between red and black, a symbol of the duality that no one yet understood fully. As the first light of dawn touched the horizon, the villagers awoke to a village forever changed. Nothing could return to the way it had been. The friends would soon learn that the only way forward was to face the trickster directly and to see both sides of the truth. The dawn brought little relief to the village. The sun rose over the dusty fields, casting long shadows across the red and black marks painted on doors and walls. Birds cautiously began to sing, their melodies trembling, unsure if the day would be safe. The two friends, exhausted and battered from days of tension, met one final time under the baobab tree. Silence stretched between them. Pride had faded slightly, replaced with a bitter understanding that neither could win without the other. Eshu appeared, his presence calm but unmissable. His hat, half red, half black, seemed to glow in the morning sun. The friends could not hide their awe nor their fear. "You have seen your world from one side," Eshu said, his voice like wind through leaves, "and you have suffered. But this is only the first lesson. You cannot see the whole truth with stubborn hearts and angry eyes. You must learn to listen, to observe, and to understand that every action, every color, every choice has another side." The friends bowed their heads. Neither spoke, for words could not capture what they had witnessed. Around them, the villagers began to gather. Some were angry, some ashamed, and some simply confused. Yet all could feel the weight of the trickster's presence. Eshu walked slowly through the crowd. No one could stop him. No one could command him. He paused at the village square, lifted his hat slightly, and smiled. The red and black sides shifted subtly, as if inviting everyone to see more than they had. Then, as quietly as he had come, he disappeared, leaving behind only a whisper of laughter. From that day forward, the village was forever changed. The red and black quarrel remained a story whispered among families for generations. Children were warned, never be blind to the other side, for Eshu watches always. The two friends, though their bond was strained, knew that the true lesson was just beginning. They had survived the first encounter, but Eshu's games were far from over. The village tried to return to its normal rhythm, but something had shifted. Even the simplest task felt uncertain. Crops grew unevenly, rivers seemed to shift their flow, and the wind carried whispers that no one could trace. Every villager could feel it. Eshu's presence lingered. The two friends avoided each other at first, afraid that any interaction might reignite anger. But their curiosity grew. They wanted to understand the trickster, to see the man behind the hat, to know why a simple collar had caused such chaos. One evening, as the sun sank low, the friends followed a faint trail at the edge of the forest. Leaves crunched beneath their feet, shadows stretched unnaturally, and then, between two ancient trees, they saw him, Eshu, standing in a clearing bathed in golden light. His hat glowed faintly, red and black shifting with the breeze. "You have returned," Eshu said. "Curious children, bold children, or perhaps foolish. The same applies in my world." The friends bowed slightly, unsure how to greet a god. "Why did you divide us?" one asked. "Why the fight?" Eshu laughed, a sound like rolling stones. "I did not divide you. You divided yourselves. You saw only one truth and clung to it. I only held up a mirror. I only showed that your vision is never complete." The forest seemed to listen. Animals froze. Leaves hung suspended in the air. The friends realized that Eshu was not merely a man, but a force of nature, a teacher in disguise, and a god who carried the prayers of mortals to the heavens. "You carry messages to the gods," one friend whispered. "Is it true that without you, no prayer reaches them?" Eshu nodded. "It is true. And yet, my path is not simple. Chaos and order are entwined. Understanding requires effort. Those who think they see all, see nothing." The friends felt both fear and awe. They realized that their quarrel over the hat was only the beginning of lessons that would span a lifetime. To learn from Eshu, they would need humility, patience, and courage. "You must walk a path," Eshu said, "a path that shows you both sides. Only then will you understand. Only then will you see the truth, not as one thing, but as many." And with that, he vanished once more, leaving the two friends staring at the empty clearing, the forest humming softly, as if acknowledging their first real encounter with the trickster god. The journey had begun. The days after their encounter with Eshu were heavy with tension. The two friends tried to speak, but each word was weighed down by pride and fear. They knew now that the trickster god had a plan, but the path was unclear. The village, meanwhile, had split completely. Homes were marked red or black. Families that once shared meals now ate alone, glaring at anyone who disagreed. Even the children whispered warnings about Eshu's art. One morning, the village elders called a meeting under the baobab tree. "We must restore peace," Adeyemi said. "If we do not, the crops may fail, the river may dry, and no prayers will reach the gods." But the people argued. "It is not peace we need," one villager shouted. "It is truth." The hat was black. "No," another screamed. "Red, red like fire." The elders sighed. They knew that reasoning alone could not reach the villagers. Only Eshu's guidance could untangle the web of chaos. The two friends, now understanding that their pride had caused far more than a quarrel, decided to seek Eshu. They ventured into the forest, following the faint glow of the red and black hat that appeared only in glimpses through the trees. The forest itself seemed alive. Branches twisted, shadows shifted, and whispers floated in the wind. Eshu's laughter echoed in every direction. Each step tested their patience and courage. The path was confusing, with illusions appearing and disappearing. At times they thought they had walked in circles. "You must trust each other," the first friend said. "Alone, we cannot continue." The second nodded. "I see now. We cannot see the truth alone." Perhaps Eshu intended for us to learn that. Hours passed. They faced trials, rivers that flowed backward, trees that whispered riddles, and stones that moved when they were not looking. Each obstacle reminded them that seeing only one side led only to confusion and danger. At last, they reached a clearing where Eshu waited. His hat shimmered as always, red and black. "You have come far," he said. but you have not yet learned the old lesson. Only when you truly see both sides can the path open completely. The friends bowed their heads, ready to listen, ready to learn. Eshu led them to a crossroads in the forest, where four paths stretched in different directions. Each path seemed identical, yet each carried a different sound, smell, and feeling. "You must choose," Eshu said. "But which path is correct? Which is wrong? That is for you to decide. But remember, one path is not all that exists. Truth lies in seeing them all." The friends looked at each other. "We cannot choose alone," one said. "We must walk together." They took the first path, then the second, then the third. Each step revealed illusions and lessons. One path showed their anger, one their pride, and one their fear. Only when they faced the fourth path together did they see clearly. The clearing opened into a beautiful valley where the villagers had gathered. Red and black marks remained, but they were fading. The elders stood at the center, waiting. Eshu appeared one last time, his hat bright and shifting. "You see now," he said. "Truth is not one color, nor one side. It is many. You cannot hold it with your hands alone. Only with understanding, humility, and perspective can it be seen." The two friends stepped forward, hands extended toward each other. "We were blind," one said. "And stubborn," the other admitted. Eshu laughed, and this time it was warm, full of pride. "You have learned, at last. Go, restore peace, carry this lesson to your village, teach them that no one sees the whole picture and that harmony comes from seeing both sides." As they returned to the villagers noticed the change. Arguments softened, families reunited. The crops thrived again, even the river flowed evenly. The red and black marks faded, replaced by the natural colors of the land. The friends, once divided by a simple hat, became leaders of understanding. They told the story of Eshu, the trickster god, who brings chaos not to harm but to teach. And so, the village remembered forever. Never trust only what you see. Eshu is always hiding the other side. Peace returned, and the laughter of children echoed once more beneath the baobab tree. The trickster's lesson remained, whispered through generations, a reminder that truth is never one-sided, and that wisdom comes from understanding the many faces of reality.